Hi guys, it is so exciting to chat with you guys. I have listened to every episode of the
Have
new
you?
podcast. Yes,
I was gonna ask you. I was gonna quiz you on it
Should
a
we
little
go for
bit.
the quiz?
Yeah, totally. So episode 1, what was the shirt I was wearing?
Well, it's audio, so
Yeah. Hey, there's video floating out there somewhere, It's
true. Well, I love it. It is such a good concept. But in your own words, tell me like how the podcast trio came to be and what was the inspiration behind the name? Because I love the title.
So I'll start with the inspiration behind the name was really after Brian and Randy had come together and had this idea. But the oldish name, we were throwing around the idea of 3 different generations, life experience. We want to talk about real deep stuff, but also be fun. And the word old was being thrown around. And I was like, hold on a second.
Right.
I do not feel
I throw the word old
Yeah.
around pretty freely, and Sharna's always like correcting me, going, I'm not a
Let's
part of
slow
your
down on
generation.
the
Right.
old thing.
Right. Stop aging me.
And what about old-ish? And then everyone just loved it. Everyone was like, that feels right, because old-ish doesn't mean even anything about a number. Old-ish can be like it's a point in your life when you look back and you go, oh my gosh, I look how far I've come. You could be a teenager, you could be in your 20s, you could be in your 30s, you can be in your 80s. It doesn't matter. It's when you get to a certain moment and you think, oh my gosh, I thought this was so far ahead for me, and now I'm in it, experiencing it. And I think that's what's so cool about it. But how we came to be, that's well, Bri was scrolling on Instagram one day.
I wasn't even scrolling. So I had started following Randy randomly. He's been a life coach for the past 15 plus years. And his Instagram account and what kept popping up in my feed were just these really inspirational. He just has a view of the world and the things around him. He doesn't take anything for granted. And it was like, oh my gosh, look at the fruit that I found at the store today. This is the way I like to open it. Oh, look at this flower that I found let's revisit skipping. Like he's just he's very inspirational that way. And he feels very young and free. And like, he really appreciates the things around him. So I had reached out to him in the middle of the night because I had just one of those, sometimes when you're laying in bed and your mind starts racing a little bit and you wake up and you don't know why you're up, but then you have these like crazy thoughts and ideas that sort of, come to you at those points. And I had this thought of, I used to do a show called Loveline. It was on K-Rock in Los Angeles. And it was an interactive show that Dr. Drew was on, Adam Carolla was on, and you would sit down for about an hour and you would just sort of talk, and they allowed people to call in with questions, and we would try and guide them as much as possible, just with our own experiences and our own thoughts. And then Dr. Drew, of course, would come in, and he was the voice of reason within all of it, because I was young. Adam Carolla was Adam Carolla. So it's, you got what you got with him. So I had this idea of like, it'd be so interesting to use this new format, this podcasting that everybody's doing, in what felt like a new, fresh, and interesting way. Let's come up with a much more live feel to it that is interactive. And so I reached out to Randy, and his first response was, a lot of people have come to me wanting me to do a podcast, and I haven't. So we ended up talking a little bit, and understandably, he really wanted to get a sense of who I was now, because we've known each other for so long. And so we talked for a while and realized that we have very similar views of what we can contribute to the world today. And so I shared that conversation that I had with Sharna. And Sharna and I have always been on the same page of when we are on other people's podcasts or we do interviews together, we very quickly and easily get into the weeds of life and what is happening. And we share we share way more than a lot of people tend to do. Not in a negative way, but it's in a very natural way. So the three of us then kind of got into these conversations with iHeart of
what that could look like.
Yeah, the three of us should really consider doing this, and it would be fun and interesting. And the more we talked about it, the more excited we got about it, the more excited our iHeart got about it. And now here we are. We just finished our third episode. But we've had 2 episodes plus 2 follow-up episodes, right?
Reaction episodes.
Reaction episodes.
Right. Those are the live episodes where we have that element where we are taking calls, we're answering people's questions. We have a list of questions that
about the topic
about.
that we just had. Yeah.
I do want to ask you really quickly about Dancing with the Stars. I know you talked about it a little bit on that first episode, but now that you've had time to process, how are you feeling now? And has like any of the producers or the casting director reached out since listening?
Since that podcast, it was still very raw for me, and it was a very emotional space, and it still is very emotional because I love that show so much. But I'm also coming from a place of deep gratitude for my experience on the show. I have so much love for it. And as I said on that podcast, 2 things can be true at the same time. I can be deeply saddened that I'm not there and wish that I was. But I can also still be deeply in love with the show and want to cheer it on, support it, and see it be truly successful. I'm so excited for the people that are on the show. And I will be honestly just, if they ever called me again, I love the show so much, I'd always say yes. You know, it's always going to be a part of me. And I'm definitely thinking of them in this time, which is just confusing and difficult for a lot of people in television and film.
Yeah. And lastly, really quickly, there was some news today from Dancing with the Stars World about Matt Walsh kind of taking a pause on everything until a solution is coming. There's also like reports that ABC might be delaying the show amid the strike. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that would be the right decision?
I couldn't even give you a what's the right decision. All I know is that it must be such a hard position to be in for everyone involved. I could not imagine the pressure and the stress. I can understand the want and the need for both decisions. The decision to want to move ahead for the 500 plus employees that want to be able to feed their families and have a job, or the need to stand in solidarity with the WGA and SAG to create real change for people. I get both sides, and I truly feel for them in this moment. And I'm just sending so much love and support, and I do not envy the position that they're in. And I truly hope that it all works out the way that it's meant to.
Yeah, I don't think it's really about like the right or the wrong decision. I think it's figuring out the decision that serves them the best. And it's a tough one. And this is with the strike and everything that's going on in the industry, it's a lot of unknowns. And so people are navigating this situation the best way they possibly can. And they're learning every day, and they're growing every day, and they're forced to make tough decisions every day. And this is one of them. But I think ultimately the show, as with a lot of other shows, is going to do what works the best for them and for people around them in the moment. And they'll absolutely succeed in doing that.
I think to add on to the end of it, it's important for fans and people to know that are reading these stories to not hold resentment against anyone that is in this situation. It is such a confusing time. Those that agreed to do the show, those that are on the show, I'm sure didn't realize that this wasn't a carve out moment, because those do exist, right? And went into this feeling like they were in the clear to do it. Now that ball is rolling down the hill already, full steam ahead. And it is so much more of a big deal to slow it and stop it. And again, just sending them love and understanding and kindness and wishing them the best with a really difficult decision.